I think, shall we start, sir?
Yeah, we shall start.
Okay. Good morning. Good morning, all of you. It's a fourth day of first session of 5 days ACT training and learning Atal Academy FDP on cognitive radio, antennas, and millimeter wave communication. On behalf of management, our principal, Department HOD, and my dear colleagues, on behalf of them, I'm welcoming you, sir, Dr. Yuvaraj, sir. He's a assistant professor in, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, please.
Yes, sir.
Ma'am.
Sir is Dr. S. Yuvaraj, sir, assistant professor in NIT, Tedagalapuram, Andhra Pradesh. Sir has done so many research works in the areas of RF and microwave components, microwave sources, and microwave passive devices and antennas. So I think he is a right person for this FTP. So on behalf of our Saranathan College of Engineering, Department of ECE, I once again welcome you to this FDP, sir. As a formal introduction to your profile, I request our beloved professor, Dr. S.A. Arunmozhi Madam, to introduce you in this FDP, sir. Ma'am, the session is handed over to you, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Good morning, one and all. It is my pleasure to introduce our resource person, Dr. S. Yuvaraj, of this 5 days Atal FDP on cognitive radio, antennas, and millimeter wave communication. Dr. S. Yuvaraj is presently working as a professor in the Department of Electronic Communication Engineering, NIT, Andhra Pradesh. He did his BTech at PSNA College of Engineering and Technology, MTech at Indian Institute of Technology, Banaras University, Varanasi, and he has completed his PhD at Indian Institute of Technology, Roorkee, with the title Investigations of Megawatt Class Sub-Terahertz Wave Coaxial Cavity Iron Oscillators. His research areas include RF and microwave components, microwave sources and allied components, microwave passive devices, and antennas. The recipient of MHRD Academic Fellowship from Government of India during his MTech program, and he also received the Student Travel Grant Award for participating in German Microwave Conference in the year 2018. He has many publications in both international conferences and journals. Most of his journal publications are IEEE transactions. He has presented his research work in international conferences held at various countries such as Germany and USA other than India. We are eagerly waiting for your lecture on antenna arrays and beamforming. Now, the session is handed over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks for a kind introduction. Now we shall begin the session.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So, yeah, so I shall share the screen. So I hope the screen is visible, right?
Yes, sir,
Yes,
it
sir.
is visible.
Yeah. So my sincere request to the organizers, if by happens if the network gone from my side, I request them to please take a call. Okay, otherwise I would be thinking that I'm continuously in the track. Okay.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. Definitely we'll be doing it, sir.
Okay. So we shall begin the session.
Yes, sir. You can start, sir.
So a very good morning, one and all. As introduced by the organizers, I am Dr. Yuvraj, working as assistant professor in the Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering at NIT Andhra Pradesh. So the today topic of the talk is antenna arrays, especially beamformings. So I have divided the presentation in this way. I will give some introduction about some antenna parameters, a very brief introduction about some basic parameters, and some array concepts. Those are also very basic, just a touch to get into the flow. And we will discuss some beamforming antenna arrays. And we will also discuss what are the next generation communication channel challenges and how the beamforming techniques are going to progress and are going to overcome those challenges. And we will discuss about one particular concept, that is a reflect antenna array, which is a very basis for the reconfigurable meta-surfaces, and we will conclude this talk. So this is how I have planned this session. So antennas. So as you all know, what is an antenna? It is a device which transmit the electromagnetic wave into the free space, or in other words, which from the guided medium, that is from the waveguide or from any RF circuit, it transmits the electromagnetic energy from the circuit to the free space. That is what antenna purpose. But what antenna has to be? It also has to direct the beam in the particular direction as per our desire. It is not only radiate in a random direction. We also want the antenna to be directive mode, and we also want the antenna. For example, if you are giving 10 watts of power, it has to deliver that entire power into the free space rather than it consumes 9 watt and deliver 1 watt. That also we don't want. So we want the antenna to be more directive and more efficient. So these are some popular antennas. This is a reflect antenna, mostly used in radio astronomy purpose. And this is our popular MIMO antenna, that is a beamforming array. And this antenna is a Yagi-Uda antenna in a PCB structure, whereas this is an antenna installed in unmanned aerial vehicles. Okay. So we will discuss slightly about the antenna parameters, that is directivity, what is that, antenna gain, efficiency, and polarization. So what is directivity? So before understanding directivity, let us understand how the isotropic antenna works. Suppose you have a antenna in which you fed a 10 watt of power, and this isotropic antenna, what it do is it will radiate the power equally in all the directions. That is the principle of that. Then but however, we don't want isotropic kind of pattern for most of the application. For most of the application, we want more directive kind of beam. So directivity is a quantity which measures how much the antenna is delivering the power in a given direction in comparison to an isotropic radiator. So the isotropic radiator, if you measure the directivity in the space, it is 1 in all directions. Whereas if you measure the directivity of any purposeful antenna, it will be maxima in one direction and it will be less than 1 in some other directions of the space. So directivity is more like a directional parameter of the antenna. Then what about gain of an antenna? So gain and directivity both are very much similar. Only thing is, gain of an antenna incorporates the losses into the consideration, whereas directivity, we don't take the losses into the consideration. So how it is that? So suppose this is an antenna which is fed with the signal, microwave signal from a source, and at this input terminal, if you have a 10 watt, okay, and at the output terminal, if you have a after a loss of 0.1 watt, you will have 9.9 watt of power. So directivity, in the sense, we always take this 9.9 watt of power into the calculation. Whereas in terms of gain calculation, we will take the 10 watt of power into the calculation. Meaning that we will take how much power accepted by the antenna and how it is radiated in the space in comparison with the isotropic radiator. That's what we compare in gain. So concept-wise, gain and directivity are related through the term called efficiency. The efficiency incorporates the losses of the antennas. Okay. So the gain and directivity are related to the efficiency. The efficiency, one is conductor efficiency and another is dielectric efficiency. The conductor efficiency is responsible for the lossy nature of the antenna, that is a conductive losses, whereas dielectric efficiency is responsible for the dielectric losses in the antenna circuits. We also have one more efficiency, that is a reflection efficiency, that is due to the mismatch between our feed line and the input terminal of an antenna. That is called reflection efficiency. However, as per IEEE standards, if you are measuring gain, then it means that you are taking only the conductor and dielectric losses into consideration, not the mismatch loss or polarization mismatch loss. Those are has to be taken into the consideration if you want to determine the power delivered at the receiver. But however, those will be taken separate, not in terms of gain. Okay. So next parameter, what we want to understand is what is a polarization. So the polarization is nothing but the locus of the electric field vector in a space with respect to time. That is a general statement of a polarization. We have linear, circular, elliptical kinds of polarization. Elliptical is the most generalized state, and circular and linear or some kind of a special case of the elliptical. So now, what is the polarization of an antenna? So the polarization of an antenna is generally said as the polarization of the electromagnetic wave when the antenna is in a transmitting mode. Okay. So if the antenna is said to be a polarized in some, for example, if it is a linearly polarized in horizontal direction, okay, that is a horizontal polarized antenna you are there, and your incident wave is also horizontal polarized, then your reception power will be very high. If suppose your incident wave is of vertical polarized and your antenna is in horizontal polarized mode, then the power received would be 0, because both vertical and horizontal states of polarization are orthogonal to each other. So that's why in a satellite communication, people always prefer to use a circular polarization, because at least to some extent 50% of power will be delivered, even though the electromagnetic field get rotated, you will get 50% of the power delivered. Okay, so the polarization loss factor determines how much the polarization mismatch between our incident electromagnetic wave and the antenna polarization. Okay, so these are some parameters of the antenna which we want to know. And what is an array? So the array is an arrangement of antennas so that we can have a desired radiation pattern with a maximum gain in that particular direction. So to look at this, so these type of array structures are developed for radio astronomy purpose. So this is a site in Pune where giant meter radio telescope where they want to observe the radio astronomy signals. Okay, so it is spread around 42 kilometers area. Okay, where they have installed a giant antenna arrays. So basically, what is an array? So it is we want to have a group of antennas so that we can direct the beam in a desired direction with a maximum gain. Okay, so that is what array is. So this is our popular massive MIMO, where it has 128 elements. This is a 64 elements, 64 into 2, 128, because each antenna works in a dual states of polarization. So what are the advantages of array? So you can have a very high directive beam, that is a very narrower beam, and you can have a very less side lobe levels. You can electronically steer the beams, that is what beamforming means. And there are different types, either it is a fixed, your direction of maximum is fixed, or it can be steerable. The steerable can be either electronic mode, or mechanically you can steer the beam in the particular direction. So these are the types. So the radiation pattern of any array antenna depends how you are geometrically you are arranging the elements of the array, and what is the relative distance between the elements, and what are the excitation amplitudes that fed to the individual element, and what is their phase difference between their elements, and the individual antenna radiation pattern. I mean, suppose you are using a dipole antenna, or you are using any other monopole antenna, or even parabolic reflector antennas. So the individual pattern of an element also plays a role in the entire radiation pattern of the array. So let us discuss some basics about this array antennas, starting from 2-element array. We will just have an overview of how this array works, so that it will aid in our further discussion. So we are having in this case a 2-element dipole antenna. Okay, and these antenna are horizontal infinitesimal dipole antenna, and they are separated by the distance of d. Okay, so in a far field region where r is much greater than d, then this r1 is approximately equal to r. So now let us determine what is the electric field in a far field region of infinitesimal small dipole antenna, that is horizontal dipole antenna. It is in a theta direction. Okay, so the total field due to the 2 elements is, we can use the superposition theorem. So we can add these 2 fields, okay, where I1 and I2 are the antenna excitation amplitudes. Okay, suppose if in that case, in the far field region, R1 is approximately equal to R2, and it is equal to R, and you can take the total field as an approximated value like this. And also, if we have the excitation of element 1 and element 2, both are as equal amplitude, differ by the phase of beta, then the total electric field will be this one. So which means that the total electric field is the product of the element factor, that is the electric field due to the single dipole antenna, along with the array factor. Okay, so if you want to determine any antenna array, the array factor is going to play a major role, because we always do a very lots of analysis in the individual radiation pattern of the antenna. Okay, so this array factor is a very much controlling factor which we have in our hand. We can modulate this array factor as per our wish. So this is a radiation pattern for this two-element array. This is the element pattern. That is a dipole antenna, which is in a figure of 8. Okay, and this is the array factor when the phase difference between the two is equal to 0. So you will have a simple circle, and the product you will again get a dipole because you have not provided any phase difference between the two. Suppose you have given the phase difference between the two array elements. That is, if you have given the phase in the excitation, then you will get the change in the total radiation pattern. Then you will get the change in the total radiation pattern. So, which means that by just changing the phase of the excitation, we are able to control the radiation pattern of the entire array. Okay, so now we will quickly discuss about some n-element linear array. Okay, so what is this is in n-element linear array, the elements of the array are arranged in a straight line, and they all fed with a uniform amplitude signal. However, the phase difference between the elements are beta, and they are all equally spaced. And the phase difference between the element 1 and element 2 is beta. Element 2 and 3 is again a beta, and so on. Okay, so for this kind of linear array, the array factor is determined as 1 plus this is a phase term contributed by this element 2 due to element 1, and this is a phase term contributed by the element number 3 due to element number 1. So like that the phase difference are written, and we will get the summation over n equal to 1 to n exponential of j n minus 1 of psi. So we can use a simple summation theorem and simplify the array factor expression as this. So the array factor expression would be like sine n psi by 2 over sine psi by 2. So now note down this. So now if you want a null, if you want a null in a radiation pattern in your desired direction, then for that null, this sine n psi by 2 has to be equal to 0. Suppose if you want to have the maxima in a particular direction of theta, then this entire term has to be in a maximum value. Okay, so we can control this array factor so that we can achieve our desired radiation pattern. Okay, so that's what the array is. So in this n-element linear array, the nulls occurs at when the sine n psi by 2 is equal to 0. So if you take this, you will get theta n, that is a direction of null which is occurring in this. Okay. Similarly, the direction of maxima occurs when psi by 2 is equal to plus or minus m pi, and theta m will be cos inverse of lambda 2 by 4 minus beta plus or minus 2 pi. So if you want direction of maxima in some other direction, then you have to give the phase in that way so that you can achieve the direction of maximum in your desired direction. So what is a planar antenna array? So in a planar antenna array, where we have the elements of the array in a plane. Okay, we have in x directions the elements are separated by the distance of dx, whereas in a y direction they are separated by the distance of dy. And the advantage of the planar array is we can have the beam rotation in both azimuthal and elevation plane. We can have the rotation in the entire space. Okay, that is more controllability over the beam steer in a planar arrays. So in the same way, we can determine the array factor for a planar array. Okay. Then, so this is the radiation pattern of a planar array for a number of element in x and the y direction as 5, 5. Okay, and that is a square array. So all this I have taken from the Balanis just for the revise of the basics. Okay, so now comes the phased array. So what is a phased array? So in a phased array, by controlling the phase of the excitation, we can control the direction of maximum. Okay, so if the phase of the excitation in the array elements, if we can control, then we can control the direction of maximum. From that concept, the phased array was developed. Okay, so this is a expression we got from a linear array. Okay, n element uniform linear array, where at psi equal to 0, you will have the maximum. Okay, so if you determine, if you apply the beta equal to minus kd cos of theta 0, that is, if you apply this phase, then the direction of maxima will be at theta equal to 0. Okay, so the point to be noted in the phased array is, by only controlling the phase of the excitations, we are controlling the direction of maximums. Okay, so this concept came in early 1990s. Okay, where they reported that if we tune the phase of the elements of the array, we can get a maximum gain in a desired direction. But however, this concept didn't get much attention at that time. There are various reasons, because in around 1990s, we don't want any data communication. Most of the communication were required for the voice channels. So people never want to invest this kind of array structure. So later, after 2000, when the 3G, 4G communication research begin to start, then people again use this phased array concept in a beamforming technique, so that we can use this kind of phased array to achieve our beam maxima in our desired direction. That led to the innovation and development in the area of beamforming. So what is a beamforming array? So in a beamforming array, the phase of the array elements are controlled by any computational circuit, so that we can achieve a radiation pattern that is a maxima in a desired direction. And this computational circuit, which supplies the phase information to the antenna array, also understands in which direction the maxima is required. That is, in which direction the subscriber needs more signal. So by analyzing that statistical information, it will give the phase information, so that this beam can be steered and support that particular user. And even if the user starts to move, then that phase information has to be changed, and the beam direction has to be tuned in particular way. Okay, so the phased array be the basic for the beamforming array. However, the beamforming architecture got developed with a lot of computational capability, where they understand the direction of arrival, the motion of the subscriber, and with a minimum delay, we have to change the phase of the array elements so that we can keep on track with the subscriber movement. So, what are the challenges that the phased array face and how these are overcome? We will just quickly look into that. So, this is a massive MIMO architecture proposed for 5G communication. Okay. So, what are the challenges in beamforming array? The first and major challenge is coupling between the antenna elements, because in the beamforming array, the elements of the antenna array are closely associated, so that there will be mutual coupling between them, which disturb the entire radiation pattern. And second is, look at, there are 64 antennas in this, and 64 into 2, 120 antennas, means mathematically 128 antennas, because each antenna is working in 2 states of polarization. And we have to feed all the antennas with the phase information. So a very large RF circuit is there, which will make a loss in the network. And the third challenge is, we have to integrate this entire antenna to the communication channel. That is the entire transceiver network, we have to integrate it. That integration, the way in which we are integrating this massive MIMO into the communication channel leads to the 3 broad classes, that is analog beamforming, digital beamforming, and hybrid beamforming. So the integration of this entire array structure into the RF transceiver circuit is a very complex task. So what is analog beamforming? So if you are applying the phase information in analog side, that is in a baseband or at the RF side, then it is an analog beamforming. The advantage is it is very easy to develop this kind of architecture because of less computational requirements. However, the drawback is we won't get that much narrower beam from this, and beam steering is also not that much quality. So these are the drawbacks of this analog beam. So when the analog beamforming are generally preferred, so suppose when a new proof of concept is developed, when we want to check some new proof of concept with limited computational resources, then analog beamforming are preferred. So initial stage of MIMO, analog beamforming preferred. Now in initial stages of millimeter wave communications, these analog beamformings are preferred. And what about digital beamforming? So in digital beamforming, the phase informations are fed in the digital domain itself. However, since we have given the phase information in the digital domain itself, we need a separate digital to analog converters in each of the antenna arrays, which means that if you have 128 antenna elements, we need 128 DAC circuit. So the digital to analog converter challenge is developing a very energy efficient DACs are very difficult, and another is the giving the phase information in the digital domain itself a very computationally challenging. But the advantage what we are paying in, what we are getting from this paid is we will get a very nice narrow beam, and we can tune it in a very better way, and a very narrow tuning, very fine tuning of the beam can be achieved through digital beamforming techniques. And this digital beamforming techniques are currently in the 5G communication networks, and lots of algorithmic development have taken place, and they are in the deployment stage. Okay, so in a massive MIMO of 5G, digital beamforming is going to be deployed. And what about hybrid beamforming? So it is a mix of analog and digital. Generally, this hybrid beamforming are used when we want compromise on cost and on the quality of the output. So we will have the beamforming in both the digital and the analog domain. However, in this case, we require only a less number of digital to analog converters. And currently, in millimeter wave communications, these hybrid beamformings are used. Okay, there are currently lots of research are going on in millimeter wave communication. However, researchers are expecting that the digital beamforming will overtake in millimeter wave communication also by developing a proper architecture. They want to enhance in the millimeter wave communication also. Okay, so these are the comparison between the analog beamforming, digital beamforming, and hybrid beamforming. Right. So till now we have covered some basics of array. We have discussed what are the beamforming architecture and which beamforming architecture the 5G communication uses. Everything we have discussed. Now, what are the after 5G? What are the research challenges? What are the in which area people are looking towards? That we will look, and we also look what are the antennas going to be used in that 6G communications also we look, because that is our task. We want to design antennas for 6G also. That also we need to understand in 6G networks what are the communication challenges and which antenna technology we can use for that. That also we can discuss in this lecture. So after 6G, means after 5G, in 6G, people propose to use for outdoor communication millimeter wave frequencies, that is 28 gigahertz, 38 gigahertz, 73 gigahertz, 81 to 86 gigahertz. For indoor communication, they prefer to use 60 gigahertz. So why 60 gigahertz for indoor? Why not outdoor? Means in outdoor, atmospheric absorption is high at 60 gigahertz due to the oxygen molecules. So 60 gigahertz cannot be used for the outdoor communication. So that's why they restrict it only for the indoor. So before understanding 5G millimeter wave communication, we need to understand what are their channel characteristics, so that we can understand the need, how we can support that millimeter wave communication. So major challenge is path loss. As we all know that increasing the frequency will keep on increasing the, if you keep on increasing the frequency, then the path loss increases. Okay, so that is one term rule. So if we increase the frequency of operation, then the path loss will increase. So as in 6G, we are proposed to use 28 gigahertz, 38 gigahertz. The path loss, the maximum distance we can cover is only up to 100 to 200 meter. So it is roughly like between two electric poles. Okay, that is what we can achieve. And what other challenges? It is a clustered multipath structure. Means since the operating frequency is very high, the wavelength are very much comparable with the objects around us. So because of that, there will be a lot of scattering, and this scattering will create a lot of multipath, and the entire channel will look like a cluster of multipaths. And one more challenge is we will have very much blockage in a line of sight component, because due to the human movement and due to the device movement, there will be reflections or there will be a scattering of the signal, which will affect the line of sight component. And the line of sight blockage may also be due to building structures. And what is the expectation from the channel side? The channels are expected to support a wide band signal propagation that is in a range of gigahertz. Because the 5G to 6G, the advantage we are getting is we will get a wide band. So another expectation is for this kind of millimeter wave communication in 6Gs, we want to model the channel with more spatial and temporal informations like azimuthal and elevation, transit, angle of departure, angle of arrival informations also we need to have so that we can have a efficient beamforming. So what other challenges are there in 5G, after 5G? So if you observe till now from 3G to 4G, 4G to 5G, every communication network in the next generations are becoming more energy efficient, more spectral efficient. However, the power consumption by the wireless network keep on increasing. So we are consuming more power, which means that we are radiating more radio waves into the free space. That even though we can say our network is more energy efficient, more spectral efficient, this will happen because in each increase in the generation, more number of subscribers will come into play, and the data consumption will be of very different way. Because when earlier in 4G, before 4G, we never consumed video data to this much. So now the video data consumption is very high, as well as the way the people use will increase because you are providing a more bandwidth. So obviously the way the people consume the data will change. Okay. So what about one more thing? So one more thing is, till now in 5G, till 5G, we never have control over the wireless environment, which means that we never reuse any of the radio waves which are emitted in the atmosphere. And till 5G, what the wireless environment or wireless architecture we have developed is, if we want to generate a communication channel, we have to generate a separate link. For link generation, we have to transmit a radio waves, which means that they are transmitting radio waves even for establishing a very small communication link. They are not reusing any of the radio waves in the environment. So if in a 6G also we continue in this pattern, we won't able to deliver the services required by the user in an efficient way. So what they proposed is, they proposed in a 6G communication, the wireless network has to be more energy efficient, spectral efficient as it is expected. Over that, it should reuse the available radio waves. So one example we will look into this. So this is a current wireless scenario. Suppose the mobile user M, he wants some data requirement, so he wants to connect to the internet. So first he will check with the base station 1, which is very near to him. But however, due to this blockage, he is not able to get the enough signal. So now the control circuit will ask the base stations 2 to support it. So it will direct the beam in such a way that he will get more signal. and he will get connected. But the point is, in this, the base station 1 is also radiating, base station 2 is also radiating, and it direct the signal so that his requirement gets satisfied. Now, suppose if these buildings, nearby buildings, if you uh, if you paint these buildings with some reflective surfaces in such a way that if the signal from the base station 1 can be reflected by them towards the mobile network 1, then there is no need of base station 2 itself. Only this reflective surfaces itself will manage this, because the base station 1 is already radiating. What these surfaces has to do, it has to re-radiate the energy towards this mobile user. Okay, so in the next 6G networks, what people are expecting is they want to use the intelligent reflecting surfaces. Means by putting the intelligent reflecting surfaces, we are going to reflect the signal to the required user, or otherwise we are going to reuse the available signal rather than requesting for a new signal generation. That is one thing. And one more expectation from this new communication architecture is this reflecting surfaces should be able to track the mobile user location, and it also needs to adjust itself with the nearby base station. Suppose if this mobile user move to this location, then the reflect surface has to reflect the signal from the base station 2 to that particular location. So it also needs to sense the location of the mobile user as well as base station. It has to redirect the energy, and what other expectation from the intelligent surfaces, it has to be energy sustained. Means we don't want to provide these type of reflecting surfaces with a separate battery power or any power supply. It has to energize itself through the available radio energies around them. Okay, so this kind of smart radio environment are expected in the future 6G. So, what is the expectation from an antenna side is we want to develop a reflecting surface that are intelligent, means that can tune the beam in their space, and they can sense the location of the subscriber and the base station, and they can also self energized, means with the available radio energy they can convert them into the DC power and store that for the operation. So this kind of intelligent reflecting surfaces are required in the future 6G networks. So what is reconfigurable metasurface, or in general what it means? So metasurface is just like a metallic surface. What metallic surface will do? It will reflect the electromagnetic signal. But this metasurface, what it do? It reflect the electromagnetic signal in our direction of the desire. So how we can achieve it? So by modeling the elements of the surface with some models, we can vary the phase of the reflected signal. Suppose instead of having a square, if you have this kind of circle, the signal reflected from this element phase would be different. So by modulating the element geometry, we can have a control over the reflected phase. So once you have a control over the reflected phase, then you can tune the reflected signal in the direction of your desire. Okay. So that's how this is working. Then how we can achieve this reconfigurability? So by introducing the pin diodes or even RF MEMS, we can modulate this physical structure, and hence we can modulate the electromagnetic property around it, and we can tune the direction of maximum to our desired directions. Okay, so this is how the reconfigurability can be achieved in these meta surfaces. So one more application which is desired is so till now we have introduced sensors which can monitor the vital information of a patient, and that sensor will communicate to the nearby wireless node through some antennas. So the sensor antenna, so every time if the sensor wants to send some information, it will turn on the antenna and it will send the signal. So instead, if we use this kind of meta surface, intelligent meta surface, so what this intelligent meta surface will do? So anyhow, the base station will be there, and it will sending the signal continuously. So the meta surface will reflect the signal in a general way. If it want to send some information, it will modulate this reflect signal in some pattern. Suppose instead of sending the direct signal, it will modulate in some way so that that particular information can be sent to the nearby mobile network or nearby wireless node. Okay, so in this way, we are not in the smart environment. We are not generating a separate radio link. We are not generating a separate radio link. Instead, we are using the same base station signal, but however, we are reusing it. Okay, so this is also a kind of expectations which from the future wireless networks. So what are the, as an RF engineer, we have to look out what are the need from the antenna side. So the need from the antenna side is, in the 5G communication, the need was to have a massive MIMO architecture, whereas in the 6G, the need was to have the intelligent reflecting surface. That is a surface that can reflect the electromagnetic signal in the 360 degree of space, and the reflecting surface has to be reconfigurable, means if you want the direction of maximum has to be changed, that should be done, and the surface should also understand the states of polarization, and the surface should also work for multiple frequencies. So all these are the challenges that are come into play in front of the antenna designer. So before looking into the development, we also look what are the available technology with us so that we can improve on that. Okay, so the reflect antenna array. So the basic of any meta surface is the reflect antenna array. So as we all know that this is a very popular parabolic reflector used in a satellite communications to focus the beam in a desired direction. So advantage of reflectors over array antenna is we don't want very complex feed circuit. In reflector, we will have a feed, which is a horn feed, and it will send the plane electromagnetic wave, and this reflector will reflect the electromagnetic energy in the direction of the desired. So in the same way, in a planar circuit, the reflectors are developed. Okay, so where we will have very small radiating elements, and this entire reflect antenna is fed with the entire reflect antenna is fed with some horn feed, and it will reflect the electromagnetic energy into the phase space. So this is a kind of patch structures developed. Okay, so this is a microstrip patch reflect antenna. So now let us understand how this reflect antenna array works. So the basic idea is any element, if you incident the electromagnetic wave, it will reflect. However, the phase of the reflected signal depends on the structure, of that element. So if you want to introduce any phase in the element, you introduce the phase line or delay line, so that it will modulate the phase of the reflected signal. So the phase of the reflected signal can also be changed by rotating the elements. So if you rotate the elements in a random way, then the reflected signal phase will vary. Okay. Otherwise, you change the dimension of the element itself, so that the reflected signal from the element 1 and the element 2 will be of different phase. So the entire signal reflected from this arrays will be in our direction of the desired. So it is same like our antenna array, where we are giving in an array we will give excitation phase to each of the elements, whereas here we are modulating that reflected phase from the array by modulating their element size, orientation, or by introducing a simple delay elements. So the element analysis is very critical in a reflect antenna array, because we have to identify the element structure. We have to identify which of the geometrical parameter is responsible for the change in the reflected phase, and if you know by varying which geometrical parameter the phase of the reflected signal varies, you can plot it, and this phase information has to cover the region of 360 degree. Okay, it has to cover the 360 degree, so that we can conveniently develop any array. So this is a design roadmap of any reflect array. So first is you have to check what type of element, whether it is a square patch or circular or split ring or Melda class or even CSRR. So there are lots of different element types, but for which applications you are using, you have to check that particular element type, and you have to vary the dimension of the element and check how the phase of the reflected signal from that element varies with the dimension. Once this phase information is known to you, then we have to orient the elements in a particular fashion, so that we will achieve the reflected signal from that entire array structure in our direction of the desire. And we have to orient in such a way that our gain of the signal from the array structure should also be maximum. So, and in this calculation, we also need to understand what is the feed gain, what is the feed location, and what is the radiation pattern of the field. All this also has to be taken into the consideration in the entire analysis. Okay, so once all that done, we can develop a array structure which can be carried out with the machine. So this is a one such array developed for this is a one such array developed for satellite application, where they proposed a stacked array. So generally stacked arrays are used when we want to have a very large bandwidth. When we want to have a very large bandwidth, generally stacked arrays are preferred. So the top layer has this kind of radiating patch, whereas the bottom layer has this kind of radiating patch. And in between them, they are separated by a air gap. And this array reported to have 2 gigahertz bandwidth with 16 to 18 gigahertz, and they work on 2 linear states of polarization. And the radiation pattern from this array structure is, for a coplanar it is this, for a cross polar it is this. So their isoflex pattern that is desired for this particular application. So the challenge in all this is the orientation of these elements and tuning, because orientation also requires we need to develop a computer code to orient these elements in a proper fashion, and tune it also we need a separate computation optimization techniques to tune it. Okay, so these are the challenges. So another design, that is a tunable reflect antenna array loaded with RF MEMS. Means how they have done? They have loaded a MEMS structure on a reflect array, that is with a square patch. So the MEMS structure will have the motion, it can move over a very minute distance of 0.6 micrometer by feeding some potential. So by inducing some potential, this MEMS structure can tune to the distance of 0.6 micrometer. And by MEMS structure, the electromagnetic behavior around this MEMS will get modulated, and hence the entire resonant frequency of this array will get modulated, and hence we can steer the beam in our desired direction. This work is a very pioneer work in the RF MEMS in case of high impedance surface, and this work reported to have the tune in the resonant frequency of around 0.5 gigahertz. So in this work, they have reported only measurement of the resonant frequency with the distance, with the varying distance of this MEMS. However, they didn't show how this beam forming or beam steering can take place, because this is a very earlier work. However, this was very much cited in other future works, and it was cited for around 12 patent work also. So this is a very pioneer work in this field. So another kind of reflect array is folded reflect array. So in this, they are having a multiple apertures. So the central aperture is connected to the folding panels through LED hinge. okay, through LED hinge. So LED is lamina emergent torsional joint, and by folding this uh, panel, we will get a different kind of reflect arrays. Okay. So this is a top layer of the central reflect array, and this is a bottom plane. Whereas for the folding plane, they have reversed. The top layer will be a ground plane, and bottom will be arrow patches. So by folding the hinge in a different directions, we can develop a different kind of reflector arrays. Okay, and this array was developed for a satellite communication in a Ku band at 16 GHz. It generates 2 pencil beams and 1 dual beam. So the gain reported to have around 25 dB for a single beam and 19 dB for a dual beam. Okay. And they reported to develop the entire array in a single PCB structure. Okay. So this is about the reflect array, which can be foldable. So this kind of foldable structure also we need in future wireless communications. Okay. So this is a one example of that. So another thing is dual band reflect array. So this reflect array was developed for 20 and 30 gigahertz. So in dual band, the element itself, some dual structure should be needed. So in this, they have used split rings and Melda cross. So the split ring supports 20 gigahertz, Melda cross supports 30 gigahertz. The entire array was reported to have the dimension of 420 mm. And this array reported to have efficiency of around 66% for 20 gigahertz and 55% for 30 gigahertz band. So dual band structure. So another is single layer triple band reflect array, where it supports the K band, C band, X band. So the circles is responsible for the K band, and cross, that is a plus. Cross is responsible for the C band, and split rings, that is a split squares, they are responsible for the X band. So this entire structure, they also change the orientation of the split ring also they have done, so that the phase information can be modulated in a better way. Okay. So this is a single layer triple band structure. So next one important understanding is orbital angular momentum generation. So what is this orbital angular momentum generation and why it is so significant? First we want to understand what is orbital angular momentum. Suppose this is a circular array where the elements of the array are fed with uniform amplitude but varying phase. Suppose the phase of the excitation varies from 0 to 360, then if it is varying from 0 to 360, then the array, if it is varying from 0 to 360, then the radiation pattern from the array would be of plane wave, that is a conventional plane wave. Suppose if your phase is varying from 0 to 360 and again 0 to 360, that is 2 cycles, then you will have a helical wavefront, that is called orbital angular momentum beam. And the advantage is, suppose if you vary the phase from 0 to 360, then again 0 to 360, and again 0 to 360. That is 3 cycles. Then you will have a different helical waveform. That is, you will have a different state. And by varying this L number, you can, L number means number of cycles of the phase, that is 0 to 360, 0 to 360, how many cycles you are varying. So if you vary the number of cycles, the number of states you can generate, which means that the OEM can support around n number of states, and all the states are orthogonal to each other, which means that a simple circular polarized antenna, a circular polarization has 2 states, one is left hand and another is right hand. Whereas this OEM has a n number of states, depends on our ability to modulate the phase of the any array structure. So this, what is the challenge in this OEM communication is, till now the OEM beams cannot be transmitted over a long distance. That is one challenge, and another is they will get diverged over a transmission, and there are lots of challenges in the generation also, as well as the detection of this OEM beams. And lots of research are going on in development of OEM beams, because if it is developed using this kind of meta surfaces, then they can be used in next generation wireless system, and this increases the channel capacity in a multi-field. So that is the advantage of this OEM generation. So we have come to the end of the presentation. So what is a reconfigurable intelligent surface? What we are aiming is, so the surface which can reflect the signal in our direction of desire, and the surface which can understand the direction of arrival, from which direction the signal is there, and the surface which can store the electromagnetic energy for its purpose. So that surface is called reconfigurable intelligent surface, and we want to have the beam steering in 360 degree, and we want to have a beam means angle of arrival, angle of departure of a beam also has to be understood by the same surface, and the surface also has to store the electromagnetic energy for the purposes. So these are the 3 requirements, and I hope the RF community will work in all these areas, and in the next generation wireless system would be more reconfigurable, would have more control over the wireless channel, rather than generating a new radio waves. It will reuse the electromagnetic wave around us for various purposes. So, and one more requirement is, we want to develop these meta surface in a very thin substrates, so that it can be easily installed in very large buildings also. So these are also one more challenge. So these are the conclusions. So the next generation wireless system will have more control over the wireless environment. So the smart radio environment not only enables the connection between the physical world with the digital, but also reuse the available radio energy. The idea of reconfigurable meta surface is at a very early stage. There are lots of research activity needs to take place in developing a storage capability of this meta surface, fully flexible beamforming meta surface. So We should conclude it. Any questions? Can you please ask?
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your elaborate information in beam forming. The audience, the faculty members, you can pose your question. Kaushik, sir,
Yes, madam.
I think there are some questions in the chat
Yes,
box.
ma'am. I
Can
will
you?
read it. I will read
Okay.
it. Dear sir, there are few questions from the participants. Shall I proceed, sir?
Yeah.
Yeah, fine. The question from Professor Leela Bitla. In wireless 5G or beyond in millimeter wave, what about the data rate and propagation loss, sir?
So beyond 5G, obviously data rate will be high. That is guaranteed. But propagation loss will certainly will be very large because we are looking for we are operating at 28 gigahertz and 38 gigahertz. Obviously, the path loss will be more as we are operating at higher frequencies. So that's why these kind of reflecting surfaces are required so that it can reorient the energy in that particular region. So yeah, path loss will be there. Very high path loss compared to 5G.
Thank you, sir. Another question from the same participant, Leela Bitla, ma'am. Hybrid beamforming can use for analog or digital?
See, like it is not like analog or digital. Uh, like beamforming, it is a algorithm technique where we give the phase informations in either analog domain or digital domain. Whereas in hybrid, we will split that phase information and give it in both the analog domain and digital domain. Why we are giving is we want to reduce the number of hardware requirements relatively compared to the digital architecture. And this is like in an intermediate stage of research, everyone want to do it so that if suppose now in a millimeter wave communication as it began in the stages of research, they don't want to invest more on the digital architecture, and the technology also needs to evolve from the VLSI side also to develop certain kind of hardwares. So in that intermediate stage, generally people look for some research has to be taken place so that we can get more ideas. So for those environment, hybrid architectures are preferred, where we will get a compromise on both sides. I hope I have answered the question.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Another question from the participant, Professor Karpaya Chinnayan. Shall we use array antenna instead of parabolic antenna for DTH, sir?
See, for DTH parabolic, it is a reflector. We are using a parabolic antenna. For a DTH, it is a reflector. Instead, why we are using that is because we reduce the entire hardware complexity. If suppose we are using an array antenna in the same case, we have to put a separate field network, which will again cost us because each antenna has to be fed separately. So to overcome all this complexity, we put a generally people prefer to use parabolic reflectors where we will have only one config rather than having two, three, rather than having 10, 12 antennas and connecting all the antennas with feed, which is a very complex thing.
Thank you, sir. One more question from the participant, Professor Madhumita Jairam. For beamforming, DOA can be used for direction or phase estimation. But how do we measure the exact geographical location? That is distance from UE from BS, sir.
Yeah. So, so this is entire one algorithm, everything, signal processing. People will give you a better idea, but however, I will try to explain in a RF perspective. Generally, we will detect signal direction of arrival by taking some reference signal. Like we will take some reference signal and we will compare it with the signal received from that particular location. Like we will compare these with the reference signal and we will estimate, okay, this much weak the signal is, or in this direction the signal is coming. So these estimations are carried out. And the exact location also carried out in this way only. Means from which location the reflected signal is coming, and what is the signal strength from the reference signal, how much it is far differ, like that only they are compared. So like I am not from the signal processing side, so I can only deliver this much on that direction of our estimation.
Thank you, sir. So another question from the participant, Professor Praveen Tikitkar. Which beamforming techniques are better for MIMO OFDM?
So obviously digital beamforming is very much better because we will have a very efficient beamforming. Or we have to see whether the feasibilities are there to import those kind of structures.
Thank you, sir. Dear participants, the forum is open for interaction. Do you have any queries you may ask?
Kaushik sir, may I ask?
Yeah, sure, sir. You can proceed.
Professor Manish Kumar Deshik, sir, you can.
Good morning, sir. Good afternoon. Actually, my query is that suppose I just want to start my research activity in the case of spectrum sensing.
Professor Manish Kumar Deshik, sir, sorry for interruption. Your voice is not audible, sir. Little bit louder, please.
Hello.
Some background disturbance is coming, sir. So could you please raise your voice, sir? Manish Kumar, sir.
Sure, ma'am. Sure. I am just doing it.
Sir?
Hello. Sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is clear now.
Okay, sure. You know, actually, my query is that suppose I wish to start my research activities in spectrum sensing algorithm. So there, my request is that can you suggest me, is there any repository from where I could start to search out something? Because it is based on algorithm, and if I am not good in the algorithm part, then how can I start it?
Sir, if I'm right, whether you want to know how the spectrum can be used for your thing?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, now I understand the entire question. So he is asking whether the spectrum informations can be used in the understanding of beamforming algorithm, or in
Sir,
what way,
Manish Kumar, sir. Manish Kumar, sir, can you mute yourself? Thank you, sir. Thank you.
or in what way that spectrum information can be used in a beamforming technique. So that's what the question is. In MIMO, massive MIMO, these work have been carried out. So entire channel modeling, everything have been carried out. So if you want, you can look for the future 6G, where there are lots of problems on communication sector, like cell-free MIMO and like in an intelligent reflecting surface, how the channel architecture can be modeled. So all these problems are there. You can work on these areas.
Sir, I would like to ask a question regarding the usage of the term 6G. Usually, in a purpose, we can see that 6G is there. Whenever we are visiting the standardization body 3GPP, they are using another term called 5G advanced. So
yeah, beyond 5G.
The current research is going on 5G advanced as per the standardization body. So my question is, if you are writing some paper, can we use the term 6G, or it is better to use 5G advanced? What will be better?
We can, yeah, as we can write as beyond 5G.
Yeah, sir. Beyond 5G, the term is also using, but the term 6G, however, is not coined, or it is not defined. What is the speed? What should be the facilities, like that? The standardization body has not defined. However, in some paper, some researchers are using the term 6G. Some of them are using 5G beyond, like that. Which will be better from your point of view? That.
So, yes, as you mentioned, till now there is no any spectral allocations or nothing like happened from the federal commissions or any agencies for this communications. This frequencies can be used, but the thing is, generally the research will start very early over the standardization. If you look at the MIMO research and all, they all started in 2000 around. Like in the same way, the research always will start at a very early stage. As you mentioned, you can, whenever you are reporting any articles, you can quote that not as a 6G, you can quote as a 5G advanced, future 5G. In that way, you can quote it.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Wonderful information.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
The participants, the forum is open for queries. You may ask now.
Sir, I think another one question is there in the chat
Yes,
box.
Yes, ma'am. The another question from the participant, Professor Praveen Likitkar. What is the difference between transmit beamforming and receive beamforming?
Sorry, I don't have any idea on this particular thing. What is the difference between transmit and receive beamforming? So algorithm-wise, they may be have a very different things. As an RF person, I don't have enough information on these algorithm-based informations.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your mind-blowing and very much informative session, sir.
Sir, surely we'll be sharing the email ID. Dr. Rajiv Mathur has given it. Queries, but longer one. Please share sir's email ID. Surely we'll be sharing his email ID, sir. And I think another one more question from Manita Kaba, madam. How does... Sir, is it audible, sir?
Yeah. How does pre-coding
affects the beamforming?
Okay. Means again, this is mostly from the sector of the signal processing and communications, which I'm not very much aware of that. So I don't have information in these pre-coding effects on beamforming. I have understood from the RF perspective what are the next generation requirements are there, and how as an RF persons what are the advancement we can do it in a antenna side. That's what my work. So I don't have information in that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your excellent informative session, sir. I think from the participants' queries itself, we can come to know how much your session was very interesting one. Right from the basics, antenna parameters, polarization, radiation pattern, N-element array, planar antenna array, beam array, and its challenges, application of that one. After 5G to 6G, millimeter wave channel characteristics, reconfigurable surfaces, reflect array, tunable reflect array, and reconfigurable single layer tri-band reflect array, what not else, sir. All the advancement starting from the basic, you have given it in an excellent way, sir. Thank you very much for sharing your knowledge and your precious time with us, sir. Thank you very much, sir. And to give the formal vote of thanks, I'm requesting Mr. S.D. Sairam, Assistant Professor, Department of ECE, to deliver the vote of thanks. Sir?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Hi, good morning, everyone. I am honored to have the opportunity to give a vote of thanks on this auspicious occasion. On behalf of organizing team, I thank our eminent resource person, Dr. S. Yuvaraj, Assistant Professor, EC Department, National Institute of Technology, Andhra Pradesh. His excellent lecture on antenna arrays, types of beam forming, and challenges of designing antennas in 5G and 6G technologies, reconfigurable meta surfaces, and reflect array antennas. It is very useful for our participants for their research activities. Your lecture has enlightened our minds and have shown us a new path. Thank you so much, sir. I would like to express our sincere thanks to management for encouraging us to organize such programs. I would like to acknowledge our gratitude to our respected principal for being the catalyst that stimulated us to do our best. I would like to thank our HOD, Dr. M. Shanti, for a constant support, and you have given us a lot of encouragement. Thank you so much, ma'am. Last but not least, I thank you all the participants for showing their interest in the program. I once again thanks everyone for making this program successful. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, ma'am.
In future also, we want to have the association with our institution, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Yes, sure, ma'am. Sure. It's
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for accepting
Thank you,
our
sir.
invitation without any hesitation, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I thank the participants. So shall we leave, sir?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Dear participant, kindly enroll your attendance cum feedback in the given link. Please carefully submit your reference ID in the form. The feedback link is shared in the Google chat box. I request everyone kindly fill the attendance cum feedback link.
Participants, some more information for you. Next session is going to be handled by Dr. M. Chakravarti, Design. It is going to be on the topic of design considerations of broadband antennas. Sir is a scientist, H level, DLRL, Hyderabad, Andhra Pradesh. So it's going to be a very wonderful thing regarding the design consideration. Since he is working in the scientist in the real field, you can have so many queries, whatever the real difficulties you are facing in your implementation. All those queries can be posed to that scientist. So really eagerly we are waiting for him to give away this design consideration of broadband antennas by Dr. M. Chakravarti sir. And in the afternoon session, we are going to have Dr. A. Prakash Rao, NIT Warangal, Telangana. He is going to give away the technical talk about optimization techniques in antenna systems. Both are going to be very informative session. So please stay tuned to that. And in a short while, we are going to start the next session. Kaushik sir,
Madam.
shall
Yes, ma'am.
we, 11
Professor
o'clock.
Shalini Ishwaramurthy, madam. The attendance site is loading, ma'am. It takes some delay. So please kindly hold on for a few more minutes. Then kindly enroll your attendance, madam. Dear participants, on behalf of organizing committee, we request you to kindly join before 11:25 for next session. Thank you.
Dear participants, you are having the break. You can join the next session by 11:25 without fail.